Hello, everyone, and welcome to Getting into Terraform episode 7, where we are still refactoring, this time networking and Kubernetes, because refactoring takes a long time and no one likes doing it. We can all acknowledge that, I think. Anyway, if you haven't been here before, welcome. This stream is about learning Terraform in the most inefficient, detailed way possible, which basically means we are not going to show the happy path that you'll find in tutorials. This is not a certification course. Oh, my camera is doing some funny things. This is not a certification course by any means. This is us just experimenting and trying different things with Terraform and kind of sticking to a relative theme so far, for every episode. If you missed any of the previous episodes, you can check them out on our playlist. This episode, after it is live, will go on that playlist as well. So if you missed all of the fun in previous episodes, join us again. I can't guarantee that we are going to do anything efficiently, and I can't guarantee that we're going to do anything correctly, but we're going to try. With that, we want to hear your suggestions. We want to know what you're thinking about comments, questions, things like that. If you have any tips and tricks for anything that we're doing on the stream, you are welcome to interact with it. It's in chat. As you do, please be welcoming, respectful, and professional. As an important note, we don't always see the stuff from LinkedIn immediately. So if you are watching on LinkedIn and you're sort of like, hey, why aren't they answering my question? It is probably because we don't see it coming into our main feed that quickly. And if we don't see it, then we'll come back to it after the stream. And you may not find us answering every single question for a couple different reasons, mostly because we may not have time to answer every single question. And some questions may divert the topic of the stream. And so we don't always get a chance to answer every single question. Anyway, if you do have any other questions after the fact and you want to get in touch with us, feel free. We're on most social media platforms, so do get in touch. We always appreciate it. With that, I guess we should introduce ourselves. I'm Rosemary. This is Richard. Richard looks busy right now, but that's mostly because we attempted to set up everything and we ran into errors because, we ran into errors. That's just how life goes. So here we are trying to set everything up. So if he looks distracted, it is not because he's not paying attention. Because
yes, I promise I am paying attention.
Are you, though? Are you?
That's true.
No, it's fine. We know you're paying attention. And so we'll recap. I will recap the past episodes while he fixes what's going on here. We had to do a create and a destroy, unfortunately. So here we are. The past few episodes, if you haven't been following along, we started from sort of the introduction for Terraform. We've been using the AWS provider. So if you are interested in other clouds, you are welcome to ask. We just don't show it on the stream. AWS is the most common that we've heard. So AWS, yeah. And we've been making all sorts of progress. We've learned the configuration language. We've learned some functions. We learned about state. We deleted log files and decided, hey, let's see what happens. It turns out deleting a log file is just fine. It caches it. So it was not as eventful as we thought it would be. But we did it anyway because it would be fun. And we experimented with some of the internals. We also learned how to export schemas and various things. And we built some modules. And I think this is Richard's first time in doing some of these things. He had some initial Terraform knowledge, but perhaps not sort of in-depth stuff. So we've been going through some of the practices and approaches. I think we've learned to officially Terraform format after we've done it. I mean, that's one thing anybody's learned. It's how to format their Terraform. And in the past stream, we talked about refactoring. And I mentioned that refactoring is probably learning how to refactor Terraform. That was probably the most important episode we were ever going to do because for better or for worse, everybody now is using some AI coding agent or AI assistants and building their code. And when you work with an AI coding agent, it's very easy for it to generate a lot of code at once. And then, you have to test it and you have to do your due diligence. On top of that, right, unless you are really, I would say, diligent about managing your context with an AI coding agent, you may not get small chunks of code that are easily reviewed or, easy for you to deploy at one time, right? With Terraform, it can be very easy to just, generate a whole bunch of code with 129 resources like I did. So in full disclosure, in the past episode, I revealed that the monolith that I gave Richard was generated with 129 resources, 3,000 lines of Terraform, and generated from 2 AWS architecture diagrams. So it was kind of representative of a monolith someone organically grew over time. But the reality was probably closer to actually what you would be working with is, if you're asking an AI coding agent to generate a bunch of resources for you. And so, without too much prior knowledge, we went through and we debugged what exactly the configuration looked like. And we started to work on the higher level dependencies, which is why you'll notice the previous episode was renamed to API gateways and lambdas. To be very clear, we were going to refactor the higher level dependencies, meaning the ones that don't really affect too much when you refactor. So we talked about some refactoring techniques. My personal favorite refactoring technique is to look at the Terraform graph, the state graph, and I identify which dependencies are sort of the higher level versus the lower level. Networking would be on the lower level, lots of dependencies, lots of things that rely on the network. So we touch that last, versus the higher level ones are sort of low-hanging fruit, but sort of easier to refactor, easier to iterate on. And so that's why we looked at the AWS API gateway and the lambdas to refactor first, because those are sort of deployed just in time. But also they're easier to refactor because there are fewer dependencies. We didn't touch the other half of the architecture, which was the Kubernetes cluster and the networking. And there's a couple of reasons why you would be very cautious about doing a Kubernetes cluster. There are a lot of applications on it. Anything you do could affect hundreds, if not thousands, of applications and many, many node groups, depending on how large your cluster is. And so today we're going to be looking at a different technique, right? We kind of just did an in-place, like, sort of refactor and move everything in the last stream. And I think it could probably work this time around, but we're going to do sort of an imaginary scenario where, you are updating it, you're updating the Kubernetes cluster or something on top of that. Or, just because you moved the Kubernetes cluster out of state doesn't mean, some other dependencies don't get affected as well. So we might do some different techniques there. Otherwise, for the most part, the techniques we showed before involved Terraform move block. And so we tried to do import, but I don't recommend doing import because a move is basically like a remove and an import. And it's just not worth it, in my opinion. Just use the move block. We showed it using it declaratively in configuration rather than using the CLI to do it. Partly so that if you are using a purely infrastructure as code setup, you're able to declare what resources are being moved into modules and then push them up and have the state change that way without necessarily doing them sort of out of band in a CLI. So that's sort of the summary of the past 5 episodes. It was a very long summary, but it was worth discussing, I think, because there was a lot that happened.
Yeah. And the resources that they're recreating now, I had to go in and manually delete a few things that got hung up because of API throttling limits.
Oh, great. Right. Would you like to share?
Yes.
In retrospect, we should have committed the module refactor that we did on the other side, but that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Where's this?
By the way, for folks who do want to use an AI coding agent from an architecture diagram, Depending on your AI coding agent and your underlying LLM or the model that it's using, your mileage may vary, your token mileage may vary. Some may load the entire architecture diagram very effectively, and it will do just fine. Others may kind of like stop and take a pause because there's just too much context. Where the PDF of, let's say, an architecture diagram exceeds the context window. So just letting you know that in this case, we did load them successfully, and it did generate and extract the resources, although there are some questionable practices, I would say, that Richard pointed out that when the coding agent sort of generated the Terraform from it, sort of filled in some of the blanks, like cores. There was never any cores specification on whether you should be using strict, what kind of cores settings you should be set. You should put. So we kind of just it just kind of guessed and put it in there. We don't actually know if it's correct because we never, these are just sort of placeholder lambdas, so we don't actually know if they're correct or not. But anyway. Okay, I'm going to pause. The question. Oh, yes, the commonly asked question. Yeah, the voucher or discounts. We do not do vouchers or discounts through here. As far as the voucher programs, you could check out certification webinars. There are some on the HashiCorp events page. You could check out those and see if they do offer any. Otherwise, some of our in-person events do allow it, but I am not aware of any at this time. And yeah, I know. Nomad, we were intending a Nomad stream somehow, but we just can't get it scheduled. So we'll get there. I keep saying we'll get there. If someone gave me a Nomad architecture diagram, I'll load it in. We could generate some Terraform from it. I'm okay with that. All right. So it's creating a few things in parallel, but well, I guess we could review what's going on. We can't do a graph because the state is locked, right? But at least what we're going to try to tackle today are the Kubernetes refactors. So let's say there's EKS, there's IAM EKS. These, I think we could probably do a move. I mean, like I said, the key point about refactoring, that if you have a monolith like this and you need to refactor to sort of modules, do not, whatever you do not just start changing things, right? Just try to move them to a module first and make sure there are no changes to the plan before you do anything. The other important thing to know is that sometimes you get drift over time. If you've got a for us, we don't have drift because we're literally creating on the spot. But if, let's say, you have EKS, if we have EKS and it auto updates the cluster version, which does happen. Oh, look at that. He's pulling it up. Could you make that bigger, actually?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it bigger and turn off dark mode.
There we go. Oh, very nice. So it's right now Kubernetes 1.31, which actually is not deprecated, but I think will be end of life. Yes, the extent will be end of life until 2026. So, don't go in and start changing the version either, right? But, imagine if, like, after this created, I guess, Richard, we could go in and get it to update because there's nothing deployed on it. So theoretically, the node pools shouldn't take that long to update. But, imagine, you went in and you turned in EKS auto update and the version auto updates to 1.35, which is why it would skip four minor versions. It probably wouldn't. But anyway, we're going to do it because why not? And so imagine there's some drift, something that was done sort of out of Terraform. Reconcile that drift first. Don't go running around trying to revert everything, because Terraform will try to override, right? Any changes that are done in the console or out of bound or some kind of auto update or something. Make sure you reconcile the state first from the live state to the state in Terraform before you start doing refactors. Like I said, there's a whole set of things that you should probably do from a hygiene perspective before you start refactoring. Yeah. Like the less you change, the better. And I think this is something critical that you'll want to do in your AI coding agent. Make smaller changes, please. Go back to atomic changes. This is like chunk-based development, and everybody arguing about chunk-based, CI, CD again. Like, do really small changes. Don't make big changes, because you and your coding agent need to keep track of these things. So I don't know what you think, Richard, but
yeah, I'm curious because I read there was a blog post from Martin Fowler's blog about he didn't write it, one of his like associates did, but it was talking about how using spec-driven development causes these like massive changes, and it's really hard to do like narrowly focused like atomic changes when using spec-driven development, because the spec is great for guiding it, but it's I think they described it as like using a sledgehammer to drive a nail.
yeah, it is a bit much. I think that's one thing that folks need to recognize, is that it's very easy to generate large swaths of Terraform in any configuration and any code in general. But especially with Terraform, it's very easy to generate a lot of resources, like so many resources at once. And the blast radius of this is very large, right? You don't even know what the blast radius of each of these resources can be either. So the challenge is understanding, okay, what's the blast radius of each individual component? What are the dependencies? If you're generating a huge amount of code, you don't know, right, what dependencies exist. We should actually try to generate a graph. Is there a way for you to generate the graph? I know it's locked. The state's probably locked, but if you could do Terraform graph or something.
Yeah.
And then we could regenerate. I don't know if the digraph also somewhere. Are you in the?
Well, I am not in the directory. That's just gonna.
Let's see if it'll do it. Oh, there you go. Yeah, we got to copy that and put it, I guess, into the web browser again.
Oh, what did I call it before?
You probably, yeah, that's right. You did have it there. Yeah, we have the old one. Don't. Oh. Never mind. It's okay.
Is it? It probably didn't even work yet.
What?
It probably didn't. Actually, I think I killed it before it actually did it.
Oh, okay, good. I mean, let's see. Also, I didn't know there was an ECS cluster in there. That's hilarious. That explains a lot.
No, we had
that. I think we had to copy it. I think it didn't work. We had to copy it into the browser.
Oh, that's right.
Graph is. Yeah. So again, assessing the blast radius of things. If you have the intuition of how you should be grouping sort of the resources, or you tell your coding agent to modularize from the very beginning, this might not be so bad. But as you can tell, right, like this is what I just asked it to generate, resources based on 2 architecture diagrams without really like deeply looking into it, right? And so you'll notice, like, at least now we have modules that group. Not again. Just have special false, right? Because it. It did create the EKS cluster though, so that's good. Just tell it special false. I don't know why we bothered.
I'm gonna set the password to Hunter too.
I think, will it actually give us an angry, maybe. Oh, wait. Okay, well, it's continuing at least. All right, well, back to the graph. So we did actually some modularizing before. And so last stream, you'll notice this is actually pretty helpful in that we created some modules for each Lambda and grouped the API gateway with it. And so as a result, you'll see that it actually puts a box around certain components, right? So like, oh, if you could zoom in, this is like my eyes are. Okay, so there's a Lambda. This is for the config service, right? And then there's a Lambda for the booking service, which then connects to the API gateway somewhere. API gateway module. There we go. That's the API gateway, complete with CloudWatch enabled and things like that. So it actually kind of like does these groupings for you in the graph, which means like, great, these things have kind of been fixed. It makes it a little bit more, it makes it a little bit easier. So if you do want to, let's say, change the API configuration for the booking function or the config function, you can do that individually. Similarly, if let's say you wanted to change the underlying Lambda that's deployed for any of these are all individually grouped, right? So that's like sort of a very simple assessment of blast, of sort of the blast radius. You kind of know where things are attached. So for example, this role policy for the Lambda VPC, where is it going? I see the box. Yeah, one of those. There's a second arrow on that, right? This is going to somewhere else. Where is it going? It's going somewhere. Where is it going? Nope. I think it's going all the way up. You should be able to click on it, I think.
Lambda function.
Yeah, so it's going to that Lambda function. So it's a little bit tricky.
Oh, it's because we did that refactoring, so it's like showing this module from last week.
Yeah. So, for the most part, these things are a little bit easier to see, the dependencies. This is not the easiest graph to view it. But really what we're going to work on now is the EKS portion, where it's somewhere in here in this ball of spaghetti. I think it's on the left side. So I always start from the right side. Like, I know it's not always the easiest thing to see, but I always start from the right side. Those are the higher level dependencies, and move to the left. And so that left massive tangled webs here, you see a NAT gateway, you see subnet groups. I think I see an ECS cluster. Maybe we should work on the ECS cluster. And then I don't think Kubernetes is in here because it didn't create. Oh, no, it's nodes cluster right there. There's the ingress node, ingress group. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Yeah, EKS nodes, but I don't see EKS. So I guess it hadn't created yet. So it didn't stop. It just sort of wrote everything halfway. That's fine. All right, we could do the ECS cluster because it's kind of just hanging out there. There's a big question of like, should you do this? Should you do the ECS cluster, or should you do certain resources that are only maybe grouped in groups of 3? I like to do it, like my rule is either one really, 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 really big resource that has a lot of configuration attributes should go in a module, or 3 resources, 3 or more resources, right, that get grouped together logically. That's a general rule. It's not like it should. It applies every time. Use your own discretion. But in my experience, it's probably better just to do the ECS cluster. Well, not really, because it has task definition. So we should do the ECS task definition and the ECS service, but the cluster can remain by itself. So let's look for ECS, not EKS, because EKS is still going. But there should be an ECS.
I saw that down here. Let's see. Lambda, API.
A lot of buckets, too.
So many buckets. Oh, here it is. EKS cluster main.
Oh, there it is. This massive.
Oh, we didn't put it in a module, so there isn't like a nice box around.
No, there's not. No. So we should probably put this one in a module. Yeah, let's do that.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Let's do EKS and put it in a module. Terraform's still creating, but I guess it doesn't stop us from doing this. Also, full disclosure on this, we did not set up Bob, which is our AI coding agent. We did not set up Bob with any skills or rules or any kind of context that will help specifically with Terraform, right? There are rules that you can set that are helpful in modularizing Terraform from the very beginning. There are rules or skills that you can set that provide some guardrails around like style and things like that. We didn't do any of that. What you see is what's just coming out of Bob. So FYI. We are in code mode, which basically has a certain set of rules. And we're going to move this cluster into its own module because I think it's worth, this is where Richard, would you group an EKS cluster and its node group, right? Like, I guess we only have one node group here. I don't know if we have multiple, right?
No, I thought it was just the one. And I my mouse. Sorry, sorry. I like how it makes the mouse big. There you go. To help you find it when it's
Yeah, I think there's only one node group.
one node group.
Yeah. So the question for you is, in your intuition, is it good to group an EKS cluster with its node group or separate the node group? It's not a trick question.
No, not a trick question. Part of me feels like when the dependency injection, like inversion of control, is that like you would, when creating a node group, you would supply it a cluster to like, here's a node group for this, which tells me that the node group would be an input to the cluster, or no, the cluster would be an input to the node group, which means that it wouldn't be, I wouldn't combine them into the same module.
I have the same intuition. So very cool. Yes. Dependency injection. Very, very fun principle where you want, it's a way to decouple the resources apart from each other, right? So you can change the higher level dependency without affecting the lower level dependency, right? And ideally the higher level dependency should pull the information from the lower level dependency. They also call it the Hollywood principle, which I never really understood, but it's like don't call us, we'll call you. Yeah, don't call us, we'll call you, kind of thing. Whatever. So I think when we refactor, we're going to create a module for the EKS cluster and for the add-ons, because the add-ons only apply to the EKS cluster, if I have to take a guess. And then let's see, what else do we have that is in here? Dependencies. We have EKS IAM. We have EKS Identity Access Management too. So we have this mess of things. And anything that's related to the node group. That's the good question. That's the question. So there is an IAM role for the node group. Policy, load balancer role, very important for the add-on, actually. And then we have a policy for the add-on, load balancer add-on. And by the way, if anybody is not keeping track of this because you're not familiar with AWS, let me know. Just tell me, Rosemary, explain how these things connect to each other in EKS. But I'm going to assume folks have a general understanding of how these things connect to each other. Are there any other IAM roles?
It does seem weird that they're like specifying the partition. Like, I mean, there are people who do GovCloud stuff, but like, it seems like one of those things where it's like you add a knob for people to configure it, and like the thing that'll probably be configured the least.
Right. Yeah. See, this is what we were also talking about for coding agents. There are some things that you just really want a hard coded opinion about, right? Like, how many people are going to be using the partition? Like, do you need it? Probably not, right? Over optimization on the part of the coding agent.
And I would assume that like people have not been very diligent about making their either Terraform or CloudFormation like robust to multiple partitions, that the people in other partitions that aren't the US commercial one have tools where it'll just automatically swap out any reference of like ARN : AWS to ARN : AWS Gov or whatever it's supposed to be, so that even if you don't do it, like it's still useful to people who need to make this change. But yeah, it's just a weird early optimization to make. Right.
Yeah. And that's why, again, your mileage may vary on a coding agent. And this is a very strange optimization. Like, only as someone who does a lot of Terraform, like, you would only be the one to know how many of these attributes you'd actually be tuning, right? So again, it's like, oh, come on, not again, this whole thing.
Yeah, it is. So last time we removed this from state, right?
Yeah, I think we did a Terraform remove or whatever. Or target, we destroyed it, right? I think we destroyed it. What did we do? I think we destroyed it. We did a Terraform destroy, I think. We just targeted destroy. We did a targeted destroy of the AWS Secrets Manager version.
Yes.
Yes, that's
so I think we did remember the command now.
Destroy -target.
Oh, target. Okay.
Yeah, we target. Yeah, and then
we got the name.
That thing. This is because we changed the password. Really, we should just have not put a special character in there. Just be done with it. Yes. Destroy. All right. Now reapply. Let's see if this will do the trick. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right.
Nice.
It did it. All right. Yay. We're all happy with it now. Okay. So let's recap. So we were scrolling through, we were looking at EKS cluster. So we've decided we're going to separate the EKS cluster from the node group. The node groups are a higher level dependency. They'll be added on top of the EKS cluster. In this case, I think we should probably handle the node groups first. So let's go with the rule higher level to lower level, right? Because we want to at least take out the node groups from a logical perspective. We're not deleting the node groups, we're just taking them out from a logical perspective. So if anything does go wrong with the node groups, we're not affecting the cluster, right? So if we refactor the cluster control plane first, and something goes wrong, we likely will affect the node groups. So it's better for us to just go and start with the node groups first and then work our way to the cluster. So at least we know that the node groups are functional, they're working, and they are updated into they are modularized properly. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more nimble to work with the node group than it is to work with the actual control plane. Plus the control plane takes a lot longer. If you do not reconcile everything from a drift perspective, then it could take quite some time. So we're going to start with the node groups first. So we're going to ask our handy dandy coding assistant at EKSTF at EKSIM, or IM EKS. Sorry, IM EKS. And you're probably wondering, Rosemary, why in the world are you targeting certain files? That's because we don't want to add unnecessary context. Really, we are just telling it, like, look at IM EKS, look at EKS.tf, probably outputs.tf and variables.tf, but it will probably implicitly go find those files. So it will find the files that it needs, but we don't want it to look at every single file, right? The good news is we've broken up the components sufficiently into individual files. We just haven't modularized. So, yeah, that's why we did that.
Oh, yeah. Great. How do I clear this?
You just go X to the done. Sorry, not the X. Sorry.
Done. Yeah, I was trying to show it last week. Yeah, we did that last week where, like, we said only look at these two files. And the first time it, like, very specifically only to those two files. And they're like, no, Bob, you silly goose. Like, you also need to change other files. And then it was, like, fairly clever about finding where it needed to do that without blowing up its context.
Yeah, exactly. So refactor the node groups into its own module. We'll see how it goes. This is very vague as a prompt. Could we be more specific? Yes. Again, prompt engineering is a thing. But we're going to see how it goes. So it's going to make an EKS node group directory. Fine. Now, ideally, if we had more node groups, this would do what it did with the Lambda functions, right? It would find sort of a common ground across all of the Lambda function attributes and then create a module out of it. It'd be the same that applies to the node group. The only difference is we only have one node group, so it's going to be pretty opinionated. Let's see. Okay, generating lots and lots and lots of code. Is it on auto approvals for generating?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
that's probably like a Richard artifact from when I was doing something.
That's okay. That's okay. You can leave it there. It's not like we need to review every file right now. We'll probably do it right after the fact. Another note this is what is a personal working choice. I like Richard to do things on auto approval. I just like reviewing every single file isn't always feasible. In some cases, I do want to turn off the auto approval and just actually review every single file myself. But I think we'll probably do it for the next one, because if it's a node group, you might not have that many issues, right? You have other node groups. Hopefully you have other node groups that other applications on Kubernetes can schedule on, unless the application has some taints and tolerations on it. But
I let it run leash off until it bothers me, to where it's like, okay, you're clearly running in circles. Time to turn on all permissions.
This is terrifying. So we just generated a bunch of code in the module. So let's take a look at the module. The main.
Oh, I did the same thing again where.
Yeah, so this is where this is irritating. Like, it never generates this Terraform TF file, right? We should just create a rule. In the case of Bob, it's called a rule. But there are other coding agents, you might find them to be labeled differently, like constraints and things like that. Where before you do anything, these are the styles that this is the style guide or whatever. Yeah, but you'll notice that there's the EKS node group, and pretty much everything has a variable to it. I don't know how to feel about it, but we'll see. I think it's the same problem with like partition, for example, right? It's like,
yeah, everything's a variable. Like, it defeats the purpose of like having modules to like, you then just have to specify all of your variables for every nested layer of abstraction up front.
Right, which actually for a node group, I think I'm okay with it for a node group to a certain degree, because like you could have any number of node groups. Now, again, this partition, dear Lord, this partition, I just, what is the default variable? That's my question. For partition, sorry, but in the variables.tf for the module, like what did it put? Does it have a default or expects it to be passed in? See, it's just I mean, I guess, like, again, do you really care? I guess you could leave it there. It's no harm, no foul, I guess, but who's actually using the remaining partitions?
Is the EU sovereign cloud going to be a new partition?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That could convince me that, hey, maybe I should actually make my code robust to partitions, because I always just do AWS and be like, look, anyone in China or the US government wants to reuse any code I wrote, they're gonna have to work for it.
Yeah, well, anyone who has an opinion in chat, let us know. We've been back and forth on this, but we've been like, we just hardcode the partition. Anything else in here? What are the other defaults in this? Okay. So min size, max size, desired size do not have default. And I could understand that. Again, node groups, right? So it could have any number. And then subnet IDs, that's fair. You don't know where you're going to create those. And then node group. So I think this is a fairly reasonable refactor of the module. Yeah. All right. Now let's check the root configuration or root module. By the way, for those who are curious, terminology in Terraform, we technically call this main configuration the root module or the root configuration. And then the modules are the child modules. So it is referencing the module. Node group, desired size, which I guess is parameterized because we had that set up in the beginning. And why are we saying the data partition? I mean, I guess it's, I understand, again, why, but, that's dynamically set. That's technically correct in that you would dynamically want to use a data source to retrieve that dependency and then inject it in. So dependency injection in practice, perfectly fine. But again, do we change the partition?
I think I have a hot take here. I think partition's the dumbest parameter ever, because you have to authenticate, like, this call is being made with a set of credentials, and a set of credentials are attached to an IAM principal. An IAM principal exists in a single partition and can only operate in a single partition.
Right.
There's no concept of like an IAM user and the Gov cloud being able to interact with commercial or vice versa.
You can't do like cross account, right? Or
like yeah. So like the way you can do cross account and you can do cross region, which is why you want to specify the account in the region. You can't do cross partition. It's called a partition for this very reason. That like specifying the partition, like being required to specify a partition when you're making a call that is already SIG-v4 assigned is dumbest thing I've heard this week so far. Like, I don't like it.
It's a hot take, but we promised we wouldn't change anything, right? So let's. So again, we're not going to repeat this whole process, but we know we created a module. We should probably move the resources to this module, right? So
Yes.
Keeping the same context, what we're going to say to Bob is add move blocks to move the node group to the EKS node group module. Let's see if it's smart enough to figure this out. I don't know if it will. Last time we didn't actually have a very vague prompt. We were very specific. But I'm curious if Bob is able to identify the actual resource identifier and see if it can generate the move block. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We're keeping the same context though, because we want to make sure that Bob knows that this was the context that they just, it just went through and moved things to a module. So these are the modules that move things to. So hopefully it maintains that context, and we'll see how it goes. All right, so we have a node group that got moved to the module. That's consistent. And we got a bunch of IAM roles. And what else is it generating? What is it doing?
I don't like, this is like a VS Code or a Codium code OSS thing. It swaps your the focus. It's like, oh, it starts editing a file. Oh yeah, let me scroll. I move this because I want to look at it, and it's like,
yeah,
hey, I just finished this other file over here.
Right.
Go look at it. It's like I'm clearly in the middle of something.
Yeah. Okay, so this is container registry to the node group. Fine. Node policy. Okay. All right. I guess this is fine. Let's do a Terraform apply. We're not going to say, we're not going to auto apply it, but we'll just do an apply and see what the plan comes out to be. Ideally, we don't want to see any changes, right? So we did the two-step process that we did last time. Oh, init, where we did the Terraform, we asked to do a refactor for the module, and then we're doing the move. So we're doing it all at once this time. Because YOLO. Oh, very interesting. So it didn't refactor outputs, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to tell it to refactor outputs with the module output. Wasting token. He's like, oh, well, technically, I guess they didn't know the context, so it's fine. Yeah. And it only reads 1,000 lines at a time, and there are a lot of lines. So we'll see how this also goes. Now, for those who didn't tune into the last stream, helpful to recognize that this process, if you did not use a coding agent, you would script it or something, because the number of resources that you'd be moving at any given point in time is quite large. So highly recommend you would script this if you're not doing it by coding agent. Now, the other thing to note is if you're just hopping in on the stream, now we are doing the higher level resources first. So again, we're doing in the EKS cluster, but we're doing the node groups first, and then we'll do the cluster control plane. While we didn't do anything with drift or anything with the control plane specifically, but it's easier for you to do the node groups first, then do the control plane, just because the control plane can affect a lot of different things. Someone deploying to Kubernetes, for example. The thing about the node groups is hopefully you're able to allow applications to schedule to another node group. If you're aware that you have certain node groups that are dedicated and you don't have backup node groups, for an application or a set of applications to reschedule to, oh yeah, look, 0 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. So yeah, we're okay. Yeah, it just changes the output a bit, but I think that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, for those who are trying to keep track of this, as you do the node groups and you do a refactor, you probably want to be selective about how you refactor the node groups as well. Highly critical node groups you want to avoid, save it till the end, or save it till you've given application teams or business units some notice before you go and you start refactoring. Like I said, this is I think very low impact in terms of refactor. You're pretty much just moving things around, moving things to a module. But if you do find yourself making some significant changes, or you're unable to reconcile the drift beforehand, and you have to go and look at every node group, then you have a bigger issue. But Don't try to do every node group at once. Do it gradually if you can, depending on the assess, right, the higher or lower impact of refactoring the node group to a module. But yeah, for the most part, we got this part done. My concern, and we'll see how it goes, is that it does have policies that are bundled with the module for the ECR container registry, right? Or for container registry, right? So we'll see how that goes. I don't know for sure. Yeah, because like I think this has attachments to container registry policy, and they're all kind of in. I guess that's okay. Like they're individually attached to that individual role. That should be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, for the nodes role, that I think it might have.
Yeah. One thing,
that's
right. One thing that I would say is like maybe if you need a broader policy, right? That's not just ECR read only, and you do have to pass a custom policy, maybe you'll have some complexities here, right? Where you're just going to say this module has to either take the default if it's not defined, or I override it, right? So maybe that's something for the future, but for now, at least in our situation, we don't have to consider like a custom policy.
Oh yeah, because this is just an example of like they both happen to be reusing the same policy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what makes me a little bit like, and I'm glad it didn't. I mean, the good thing is that it didn't combine them all, right? So it was at least aware that it's a policy attachment. It's separate for a cluster. It's separate for a node group. So it's not too tightly coupled. It means that, someone did, in terms of knowledge, like this was an appropriate method for doing this, right? It does decouple dependency. Okay, so now that we did this, the question is, do we do add-ons in their own module, or do we do add-ons with the cluster? I think it's better to do add-ons with the cluster.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they only exist in the context of a cluster.
Yeah. Now, this one's interesting. The core DNS add-on depends on the node group. So I think we have something challenging here to deal with, right? I don't know if I know it's why it's doing it, right? So it needs some node group for core DNS to schedule on. But it would only happen on startup. So this is another thing to question. Like if I were to refactor this and I were to recreate it again, would I run into issues because core DNS can't deploy based on like some circular dependency between that and the node group? Or could I just get away with not doing this depends on and letting it schedule itself with the Kubernetes controller?
Yeah. Using a Terraform action to poke it after you deploy it to fix this dependency, circular dependency.
Okay, so this is where I'm not sure. I can't remember if core DNS really needs the node group or not. Anyone remember? Let me see, core DNS. I think it's okay. It will just reschedule itself, right? I don't know if it needs to. Yeah, it needs the node groups, but it could that's the whole point of Kubernetes. It will reschedule it if it can't find it, right? So I wonder where I got this. I wonder where I got this idea that it needs the node group. But that's okay. That's fine. We're going to just refactor them all and probably remove this depends on. So we'll see how it goes. All in favor? I guess all in favor.
Sometimes when I get like a AI generated code sample and it's like, I wonder how it got this. I don't know if I'm deluding myself or not, but I'll Google some part of this, trying to find like what training data led them to this conclusion of like, is there like a very popular blog or a thing where it did that?
Yeah. Well, we could actually cite it. We get to ask if it will cite it. I mean, this is long lost the context, but we could ask, like, you could do ask mode. So switch it to ask mode. Okay, so you could say, why does AWS _ EKS add-on .core DNS? Yeah. Oh, I would start a new task because otherwise it will read in all the context from previous. So we don't need that. Just start a new task. Yeah. Let's see what it says. Okay, so it's the deployment. Technically succeed, but core DNS, okay, that's fine. This could cause the Terraform apply to hang or time out waiting for the add-on to become active. Interesting. Oh, well, this is more explanation. That's great. Why other add-ons don't need it? They run as a daemon set. Okay. I mean, I see this. I understand this explanation, and I suspected this is the case. Can you ask it for a citation? I want to see where they found this. Because I want to know where they found this information. No, not this. What? Open the URL. What URL is it trying? Hold on. Oh, okay. That's. Don't waste tokens by opening the browser. Hold on. Is it trying to print it out? Is that's opening the browser?
What's that? No, I'm driving the browser. What's that?
No, I know, but I don't see it in, like, where is this? Oh, it feels, oh wait, your Bob is scrolling you to show you where it is. Hold on. Where is it? Oh, it's also trying to do it through Terraform. Yeah. Don't waste your tokens doing this. Just reject.
Well, I clicked reject, and then I like went and was like looking at this URL, and Bob's like, "I reject your rejection." Oh, see, he's back at it again.
Say stop. Just stop. There you go.
Oh, I know what I think. It's one of the settings is like if Bob asks me a question and I don't respond, to just like YOLO it.
Oh no! What are you putting on this thing?
There's like a thing. I'll find it. I thought there was one where it's like.
Okay. The tribulations of using a coding agent with Terraform. We should just rename this as using Terraform with AI. Like, why are we talking about refactoring? We're not even really. I mean, half of our time is spent yelling at why it's doing this. Okay.
Like, who told you that?
Yeah. Okay. It could retries. Yeah. Delay. Well, maybe. Okay. Enough. I think we're just going to keep it the way it is. Sorry, folks. On that note, okay. So I could understand why there's a dependency to make it look prettier, in that at least, like, if you are creating this from scratch and you don't have a node group, it won't create that resource. I mean, I'm curious to see how it refactors it. Like, personally, I would, like, if I were to keep it the way it is, I would keep this add-on separate, right? Like, I'm curious if it will create one module to rule them all, or if it will split into two modules, right? One with like EKS add-on daemon set and then EKS add-on deployment. Maybe
Oh,
I would,
a main cluster like module, and then like a thing to do later module almost.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder what it will do. So go back to code mode, because then it will poop out. It will not be happy if it. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. EKSDF and IM. Oh no, we don't need IM EKSDF. I guess EKS and IM EKSDF. Yeah. IM EKSDF refactor the cluster into a module. So let's see what it does. Like my argument is like, if you know you have specific add-ons and you're always going to have those specific add-ons, like the AWS load balancer controller, then you probably will just create it as part of your cluster module. Might as well. Now, I'm just curious what it would suggest on the add-ons, right, that are dependent on the node groups. Like I am reluctant. I would say that I would just split it. Any add-on that was DAMZ, I would just put into a cluster. And then I would do add-on deployment, and that would be a separate module. If I really wanted to preserve the order of operations on this. But I'm curious what it will do. My intuition is telling me that's fine. I guess it's just.
It didn't plan to read the outputs again this time. Oh wait! Oh, it did.
It did. It did. It did.
Nice.
It did. Okay. All right.
Give me 1 second. Someone's
Yes.
right.
Yeah. All right. Trials and tribulations. And now it's going to run. And if something horrible happens with it, then we have no way to stop it. I have no control over Richard's screen, so it's just going to generate a lot of code. Anyway, how's anyone doing? I will find. I will look at the chat for a second. We got some folks. Yeah, applied on EKS. It would take 15. Yes, it would have taken 15 minutes. I think it still will take 15 minutes. But we'll see how it goes. Let me pull up the webinar link because someone asked. And there's, oh, here we are. Okay. So Richard's running it, and it's next week. So if anybody, is interested, check out this list of webinars. I'll post it in this. So there's a list of webinars on the HashiCorp events page, and that list of webinars will often have the certification as well. And so you can browse that page of certifications. So check that out if you're interested. I don't know for sure if there are vouchers or anything related to it. Probably not. But if you want to check it out, do check it out.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
It's okay. I was just laughing. I was laughing because basically if this goes rogue, we have no way to stop it because you're sharing the screen. I can't control it. So it's just like, it's gone rogue. It's spent the past, 3 minutes generating a bunch of Terraform. So here we are. Okay, what did it do? That is my question. Are you gonna? No, you didn't even move it yet. Hold on, it's not moved. It's not moved. Okay, what did it do? That's I am curious. What did it do? It did the EKS cluster. That's fine, I guess.
Oh, it did it. It did it.
Oh, it finally did it. Oh, but it's not the correct version. This is the wrong version. Hold on. Yeah, this is not the right version. This is why we set rules, everyone. Set rules on your coding agent so you don't have to keep doing this where you're repeating over and over and over and over. I mean, I guess we could do this. Hold on. You know what? I'm getting tired of this because we've been refactoring left and right. But yeah, 4.3. I mean, I guess that's okay.
Oh, did it?
I think it's 4.0. 4.0. That's
this is what it just had in that file.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, let me look in. Oh, 4.3. Mm-hmm. So this is in the lock file. So this would have been from the last time I ran. Mm-hmm. So this is probably the right one.
That's the right one. 4.3. Mm-hmm. Because I'm really tired of doing this. If you create a directory called create a directory in this project. Yeah, and then .bob. Yeah. Okay. So that will create a Bob, and then you create rules. A new folder called rules. Or do I do skill? Yeah, new school skill rules. Hold on. So what we're doing is we're altering our coding agent a bit. We're giving it some guardrails because it keeps generating a bunch of code that doesn't have the Terraform file, and I'm getting quite tired of doing that. Appearance, reset zoom. Let me just pull up my rules. Okay, yeah, so you need to basically say, you could call it terraform.md. And then it needs to have this, I don't know, where's the best place to put this?
Slack?
At Slack? You want me to Slack it?
Yeah, it's in Slack.
Okay, all right. Go. Okay. And then I think the one thing is for modules, we probably want to do it for modules. Don't do hashtag providers. We just want to use the modules.
Wait, do you want me to add modules or replace the providers one?
So put the double on line 6, change providers to modules. And then format as greater than equal to at line 13. Yeah. So that should hopefully do that. Okay. That should hopefully.
I'm gonna laugh if Bob ignores you.
I think you have to reload if I had to take a guess, but.
Like close Bob and reopen them.
Yeah, I think you need to do the rules - code. Yeah, so you do Bob, change the rules directory to rules - code, because that's this code slug for the. So anytime you go into code.
Oh, it's rules for when he's in code mode versus rules plan, rules ask.
Yes, correct. So you might have to do Shift Command P and then reload the window. Type reload. It should say, yeah, reload window. There you go. Okay. So that will hopefully reload everything. Okay. So maybe that will fix the problem. I don't know if it will. You don't have the Terraform MCP server enabled, do you?
I do not.
Oh, so maybe we need to change that rule because it doesn't know what to do because it's referencing a tool. Go back to terraform.m. Copy the terraform.tf contents. Yeah, copy that and go to terraform.md and then say always use the following format for terraform.tf in modules. Yeah, and then do markdown code. So backtick. Yeah, and then it's just, I think it's HCL. It has to be HCL is the markdown. Yeah, there you go. Okay, and then delete the rest because we don't want it to use the MCP server. If we were using the MCP server, that's the rule I use. I always ask it to go look for the latest version before it generates. But in this case, we're just using it plain. So, okay, let's see if this works or not. I don't know if it will. Okay, exit. It pretty much did. Now the add-ons. If you scroll down, what did it do? Okay, node group dependency. This is interesting. I don't know if this actually works, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think it just introduced a circular dependency.
I think, well, I mean, it did. And now I'm just like, that's okay. So if it's null, it doesn't do anything. So basically, TLDR, if you create the cluster first and you pass null, then it won't do anything with the add-on, theoretically. But I think this is actually incorrect, logically. But it's going to pass in the node group dependency because we're doing a refactor. So technically, I guess it already exists. This is where you have to be a little bit careful, because if you were just doing the cluster and you're not doing the node dependency, this may not work, right? Because it would just not depend on it, and then it would just create the add-on anyway. So I think this is actually kind of incorrect, right?
Yeah,
what I think we should probably do is do a count and just basically toggle it off unless, you know, a dependency is specified. So we say var node group dependency. If we do, we copy that. And we just put it into a count instead. That might be better. So under line 35, hit enter and add a line under line 35, and then count equals var.node group dependency does not equal null. And then space question mark 1. Otherwise, and then space colon 0. Yeah. So why do we do it this way? Depends on null means that it likely will still create the add-on anyway, or it doesn't create. Basically, there's not explicit as to whether or not it will do it or it won't do it, right? So for now, we're just going to use the count and basically acknowledge whether it is or isn't going to. It's very clear, right?
Yeah. So it'll create 0 of these if it's not there. If it does not equal 1, if it does not equal null, yes, it will create 1 of these. And if it does equal null, it does not equal it.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So then it doesn't allow the circular dependency. So this is something that applies to the case if someone duplicates this code and does it in a clean sandbox AWS account, then they hopefully won't run into any issues. They just have to know that they have to pass the module dependency, the node group module dependency through, right? Otherwise, then it would just never create the core DNS add-on. So there's some back and forth here. There's some manual knowledge you have to know here. But regardless, when you want to avoid that circular dependency, you have to be explicit. Now, we're doing a refactor, so hopefully this doesn't touch anything, right? Let's see. Oh, is my video not working again?
It seems fine. Yeah, and like the LinkedIn video is still showing it.
Okay, all right. Well, if you let me know what's not working, let me know. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's see if we can Terraform validate this module first. Not the config, but the actual individual module, because EKS cluster, the cluster control plane, had a lot of things shuffled around, and I don't trust it very much to not have accidentally hallucinated some attributes somewhere. I have a sneaking suspicion because it looks a little, you could do a init and validate. That's fine.
Oh, shared above.
Not work. Try it again. No, I guess it works. Might have to be copy pasted. All right. I don't know. I'll paste it again.
It worked for me. I just copied and pasted it.
Okay. I would copy paste it again. I think it probably on LinkedIn, because I know folks are on LinkedIn. I would copy paste it because it's not coming up as a hyperlink.
Oh yeah, I had to do that. It didn't show.
Yeah, you have to copy paste it. It's not quite going. It's not going to work on its own. And on top of that, I would say, like, look at the page for upcoming webinars on certification. I don't know if there are vouchers available, to be honest, and I don't know how they deliver them, but maybe give it a try. And we are not offering them here, and I don't know how they're going to distribute them. So keep an eye on them, though. All right. Okay, at least the configuration is valid. So why don't we do a...
We have to ask Bob to move it?
Yes, we got to tell Bob to move it. I'm a little skeptical on this one, but let's see if it will move it. You keep it in the same context, so don't start the new task. Just keep it in the same context of the task that we had before. Yeah. So yeah. Again, you people are probably wondering, like, why are we keeping it in the same context? It's because it literally did this refactor to a module. We want to make sure it keeps the same context when it does the move, so it knows what resources it identified and what resources it moved. Now, when we do this process, could you create a skill to do this for you? Yes, you should probably create. If you're doing this a lot, you should probably create a skill in your coding agent to do this for you.
Resources that were moved to the newly created EKS cluster.
Yeah. Oh, and for those who are wondering, what are the equivalent of rules in other coding agents? I believe in Claude, it's the Claude MD file. So, if you're using other coding agents, you're going to find similar set of harnesses. So the rules are also just going to be a way for you to express your coding style and things like that. So we are just being very specific on. Oh, and it always does this. It always puts it in the wrong spot. It always it finds it in the in the wrong squiggle.
Yeah, inside a nested bracket. I saw I think it was someone from Anthropic had a blog or something talking about. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was AWS from their applied science team for Kiro talking about how they're trying to move away from text-based code generation to abstract syntax tree-based generation, because that way it guarantees that it's syntactically accurate and not just looks like good code.
Very interesting. All right, let's see how this goes. Terraform apply. Oh, go out of the module. Sorry, you're in the module directory. All right. By the way, everybody, I would be diligent about removing the moved.tf after you've done it, right? Because then it could be any number of them, and I mean, it's okay if you keep it. There's no harm done because they're already moved from a state perspective. Okay, here's where I am. Okay, so this has to be manually, maybe? Why is it saying destroyed? What?
Because it's creating the EKS cluster and it's not providing the dependency in here. I saw that and I was curious. There was no...
See, that's not valid syntax, right? You see, there's going. Module dot whatever is not a valid syntax for it to go in on depends on. Depends on doesn't support it that way, right?
CLI says it's cool.
I don't think this is valid. This is not valid Terraform. In my experience, I've never had this. I've never passed in something like this to depends on. I think it depends on the scope to the module. Okay, so this is where this is not it will be null, right? Because module.eks no group. There's no attribute. Okay, so let's see. Node group dependency. We could pass in something. We could say true. It doesn't have to be null or anything. But true. It's fine. Let's see how it goes. I think it has to be a string though. I wonder. See. I would use a Boolean, to be totally honest, even because this is very intriguing. Why?
Oh, but it's deleting it and recreating it?
Because it wasn't moved. I think because it wasn't moved.
Uh,
So, okay, let's refactor this before we go further, because this is very unfortunate. So if we go to the module, let's fix the variable, first of all. Let's clean this up. There's some things that you do have to do manually. So let's clean this up. Rather than say var node group dependency, default is, let's set the type to a Boolean. It basically allows us to not deal with these nulls, because this null is not, I mean, what's the point? And you can default to false just to be on the safe side. And then in the module for the count, we'll take the null check off. So you can keep the count, but just, take the null out. Okay, so that cleans that up at least. So we're not doing an implicit null value. Instead, it's true or false. Did the node group get created? Did the node group not get created? Fine. So then we go to the main root configuration. And okay, so that's true. That's fine. Now we basically need to move the current add-on resource to the add-on 0. I guess we could try telling Bob to do it for us if we really want to, but then it has to reread the entire context. So I don't know how this will go. Let's see. Hold on. Before you move forward, can you click on the analytics, the Bob coins on the side? I want to know how many tokens this will take. Hold on. Okay, so 890,000. We are at 890,000-ish tokens. Context doesn't matter so much as the tokens. Yeah, so 900,000 tokens. Okay, so let's see. Go back to this and say, let's say move the core DNS add-on to the new module resource. Let's see. Okay, see, it needs to check current state of the module. Let's see if there's an issue. Oh no, please don't tell me it's going back. Did it go back and fix it?
No, I think it's adding a proper, it's trying to add, no,
don't use depends on. No, don't use depends on, use count. Okay, we're just gonna do this manually, everybody, because I don't think it's that intelligent about this. It's still fixated on depends on. Okay. The folks who are not familiar with Terraform, you might be wondering, why are we not using depends on in the module? So depends on is best used in a module if the resources are scoped within the module. In this case, we have a cross-module dependency. It is better not to put, first of all, the syntax actually works, so kind of just hallucinated this, but you can't just like pass the module itself into the depends on for another module. It does not quite work that way.
Yeah, you can't have like a depends on like a depends on, like it depends on this resource. You can't say it depends on some string, because there's no concept of that string existing or not.
No. Yes. So that doesn't work, right? And so what we did was we did it the correct way, in which you would do a feature toggle, in which you would say, okay, anything that has this dependency, toggle it off until I create the dependency first. Yes, that's kind of manual, but for better or for worse, this is the approach that you take to sort of doing something like this in Terraform. What we wanted to do is keep the count and not go back to the depends on, but now it's gone back to the depends on. So we're just going to do this manually. Admittedly, like this particular coding agent, the harnesses are not optimized for Terraform. So like I said, we didn't put any skills around it. We didn't put any rules around it. It's just sort of what you get is out of the box. And it's not optimized for Terraform. So perhaps it just doesn't understand this. Nevertheless, we're going to go back and manually do this ourselves. because it's clear that it will just override it. So I think we have to undo whatever it just did.
I did. I just did that.
Yeah, you did that. Okay. And then did we undo what it did to EKS too? To the EKS .tf?
It didn't touch it. It only made the change to the one file.
Okay, so let's just do this manually. Can you do a Terraform apply? And then the good news is we only have to do this manually for one resource. No, don't.
I'm kidding.
Careful that it will go back and do this again.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go back to do a Terraform apply and then, or a Terraform plan at least, and we're just going to copy the resource identifier. We don't need to copy we just need to copy the one that's going to be destroyed and the one that's going to be created. So you'll notice the one change was destroyed. Now, arguably, does this really matter? But like, if you don't want to waste your time waiting for Terraform to destroy something and then apply it, then you would do this. So copy the module.
Why is there this like 0 index on the end? Is this to somehow specify that it's?
Yeah, it's a count.
Oh, okay.
So.
Oh, right. So we said create 0. Okay, that makes sense.
So in your moved.tf, let's find the module EKS cluster EKS add-on core DNS. So let's look for core DNS because it did actually do the move somewhere. So core DNS. Okay, so here we're going to add a square bracket 0 to the end of line 47. Okay, let's see if this does the trick. Does this do the trick? Or did it already move it to the module?
Yay!
Yay!
0, 0, 0.
Okay, so then do a Terraform apply. And then we'll delete the move file because we are done with whatever stuff got moved in there.
Zeros.
Yeah. 0, 0, 0. Very nice. Okay, so then we can delete the move file because there was a lot of stuff in the move file. Okay, so now that we moved the EKS cluster and the EKS node groups, anything else EKS related that we didn't modularize? That's the question. So if we look at IM EKS, this is gone, so we could delete this. And then EKS is now modularized.
Yeah,
Yay.
it's just a cluster and a node group.
Yay, aren't we all happy? Now, if we did want to make changes to the cluster version, we can make changes to the cluster version. But again, we make sure we preserve the state as best we can before we continue that. So that was an interesting exercise. What did we learn? We learned a few things like use count to toggle on and off dependencies, especially if you have cross-module dependencies like that use depends on in your monolith before. Don't use depends on in your cross-module dependencies. You do have to use a toggle. So I'm going to put that in my skill later on because if I ever have to do this again, I don't want to have to encounter whatever that was. Yeah. Any other impressions, recaps, Richard, before we move on to the VPC?
No, I had a question on for this, the module is only taking in, I call them primitive types, Boolean strings, a list of strings, etc. There isn't a way to pass in a an actual object. I can't say this is the EKS cluster you belong to for the node work. You have to say is you have to pass in an identifier for it, and the module will turn that back into the resource from the resource identifier.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? Is that accurate? Is that a good mental model to have of how variables are passed between modules?
Yeah, effectively. But I mean, the thing about the module graph is that unless you're explicitly passing the attribute as part of outputs, it's not really cool. It's not going to interpolate it, right? So you have to, with cross-module dependencies, outputs is basically your way of outputting the contract of whatever information you need to put out there. So the proper way, I guess, if you wanted to do depends on, and I still don't think it would resolve properly because, again, I think it's very much scoped within the scope of the module, right? The proper way that you probably do it, if you were to try it, is to put outputs, right? So it'd be module EKS node group dot outputs dot node group, and you'd have the whole attribute. But I still don't think it would resolve.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm gonna pause and answer some chat.
There's just some questions about what's the underlying frontier model.
Yes, it switches. So we don't know which one we're going to get. I believe modes use multiple models. So not every mode is going to use the same model, and not every mode uses the model point in time either. So it does do model switching. So we're not actually sure which LLM it is using, for better or for worse. We don't know. But what I can tell you is that if you add your harness like skills or other rules to the coding agent, it does make it better. Some come with the agent, right? So like Bob, the one we're using, has its own harnesses that come with it. For some other use cases, like Java has a lot of the context already loaded and stuff like that. So it's probably better for that use case right now. It's, like I said, not optimized for Terraform. So, you might get some interesting things. To make it, in terms of like how you would make it more amenable or more useful for Terraform, again, you would have to define rules. You'd have to define skills specific to Terraform. I have a few if folks are interested. There are also the coding style guide and stuff is also there. And you can also use the Terraform MCP server. The Terraform MCP server will kind of help with sort of up-to-date module documentation, because some of the issue is like you might not get up-to-date module documentation, for better or for worse. What is happening here? I can't click on my StreamYard. Oh no, I can't click on my StreamYard. I'm gonna put it.
Does this mean the stream will never end?
This is
the stream that never. I don't know. I don't want to sing that song and then get like a copy on DMCA strike.
We have a bigger problem. My keyboard don't work either. I can't type anything. Oh, now it works. Now it works. We're good. Nope, we're not good. Nope. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, copy. Nope.
Just get a virtual keyboard on the screen and use your mouse to type, like my grandfather types on his keyboard, just one digit at a time.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Why? What is happening? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna reload because I literally can't click anything in here. One moment, please. Why? Oh, well, at least I'm still streaming, but I can't click anything. So that's fine. Anyway, Richard pulled it up. There's a bunch of stuff in here, including my own rules. And as well as some custom modes. I have a platform mode that I use for designing infrastructure because I got really tired of getting all sorts of strange results. So if you want to borrow my harnesses, you can. There's also an HashiCorp agent skills directory as well. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm going to reload because apparently the mouse streamer won't let me click anything. One moment, please.
Okay, I'm leading the stream now. So I'm going to start kicking people out of chat. And actually, I'm not. Hopefully, Rosemary doesn't accidentally end the stream. Let's see if we can install the Terraform MCP server before Rosemary comes back. Docker is installed. So this says Docker. You could also use Podman too. Just everywhere it says Docker, just use the word Podman instead. CDS code, cursor. Bob ID. Oh, I thought I saw something. Okay. Using Bob and MCP. Let's try this. Bob.mcp.json. Okay. And click on the gear MCP.
Okay.
It's to do it visually.
Okay. I could not get on. Okay. I am back.
Angie's back.
All right. We'll just go back to it. Do not paste your TFE token right on the live stream, buddy.
Oh no, I wasn't. I was trying to figure out if we could, because like I'm not actually. This is what I was.
Oh yeah, you have to do a Podman. You have to do Podman, not Podman.
Oh,
Podman, and then
Podmans.
and then you have to turn on Podman to do it. It's like this whole thing.
Yeah, I have Podman turned. I was trying to see if I could get it installed before you got back to show how quick it is to install. But no, it's fine.
I don't know. It didn't get fully fixed. There's some lag or something with me clicking. So as long as I don't click, we're fine. Okay.
Oh.
So now, if you do the graph again, actually, if you do Terraform graph, you print out the graph, and we'll take a look at what it is now, because we refactored 2 very large components into modules. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, and then we'll pull the graph and click and pop that into a browser. All right, I will put this on for folks who are okay. Scroll. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, the node group and the cluster are now in their own group. Great. We've got some security groups that are kind of floating around. I'm not mad about that. Those can be individual. Now I guess it's the VPC. Perhaps we should target. Yeah, there's the VPC.
Bunch of VPC stuff.
There's also database subnet group. So yeah, we could probably just start grouping the VPC stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the VPC. After all, we talked about grouping VPCs. We have 25 minutes. We can make this work.
Now that we've added the rule for Bob to generate the Terraform file, things will go much better.
I know, right? Maybe it will actually work. I have no idea. Oh, and for folks who are interested in the agent skills that are officially from HashiCorp, these are the agent skills officially from HashiCorp. They're Terraform ones and they're Packer ones. If you want to load those into your coding agent, you can. All right, VPC. Shall we just, I don't know, should we just tell it to refactor it? I mean, I don't think there's anything here. We've been doing some pretty low overall, some like mostly just moving, right? Like I said, most of what the refactor we're looking at right now is just modularizing it. And it is made a little bit easier using a coding agent to iterate over all of the moved resources. So fair, kind of cool. But the one thing I will say is that if you're doing a more aggressive refactoring that does involve, let's say, updating certain resources as well, those are not, I would even say refactor. Those are part of just, updates, right? Making updates to infrastructure. So if you're, let's say, upgrading your cluster, your Kubernetes cluster, then that's a whole other challenge. That's like a full change. That's not just refactoring it, right? But if anybody has other refactoring use cases and things like that you want to cover, let us know. Drop it in the chat. Okay, so now it's going to create the module VPC directory.
Yeah, if you tell Bob to just refactor without the context of
look at that. It actually created
beautiful.
It this time.
Yeah, nice. If you if you tell Bob just refactor, it'll do like simple refactors of like, oh, I'm going to turn this into a for each, or I'm going to turn this into a count. It'll do like very superficial, like code level, file level refactoring.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, my first pass refactor is usually just to make it so it's functionally working, meaning like it's not going to introduce new changes. Then I'll go through and I'll look at it from a logical perspective and see if maybe there's some optimizations I want to make there. It's expected. Okay, so now it's going to have the outputs. The VPC is tricky. And the reason why the VPC is tricky tends to be because everybody needs a VPC ID, right? So if you're really smart about this, depending on your dependency injection, if you have a monolith, your dependency injection is going to pretty much just involve interpolating the VPC ID. Now, I guess you're going to output it as part of the module, which is fair. But that gets even trickier because VPCs don't often exist in the same state as any of your other components, right? So you have cross-state dependencies. So I don't know. I don't think we'll get to that. Maybe this is something we should do when we go to the HTTP, when we talk about HTTP Terraform, not because it's HTTP Terraform specific, but basically it's a good demonstration of what happens cross-state, right? Yeah. We talk about cross-module dependencies. Cross-module dependency injection involves avoiding the circular dependency, injecting a toggle when necessary in order to orchestrate dependencies between modules. But there's also cross-state dependencies, and cross-state dependencies are much harder to deal with.
Yeah, I like the way that the AWS Game Day team, they create a bunch of resources. I mean, there's its own cloud permission, but I think the concept still applies that there's a limit to the number of VPCs you can have in a region, and every account comes with the default VPC, which production you generally don't use, but for what they were using it for, it was okay. And they created this basically a well-known Lambda function in the account that you could just poke it, and it'll give you metadata about the account that you couldn't otherwise easily retrieve in a single spot. So it tells you the default VPC ID, the subnet IDs for all of the default subnets, basically all of this stuff to prevent people from having to either re-implement, create new VPCs for everything that needs a VPC, or everybody writing their own logic to find an active VPC they can use.
Yeah. A metadata service is extremely helpful. Like I said, talking about refactoring and not in cross-state dependencies, again, it's probably better we do it for the HTTP Terraform stream, not because HTTP Terraform is the end-all be-all solution to this, as much as just it does show one way of solving it, but you having some kind of dedicated metadata service is extremely useful for this. You want for cross-state dependency resolution, and it decouples it properly. There are hackier ways that you could do it in Terraform, although it's not terribly elegant, and to be totally honest, not fully comfortable. I'm not fully comfortable either with it. So, okay. Well, it did something. It moved the module. The question is what did it do for everything else that depended on the module? I'm not really sure. The blast radius is very, very large, right? So,
it touched everything, right? Because I saw it touching the EKS stuff and Route 53. It allegedly made changes to all of the root configurations.
Now, what I didn't ask was this a public subnet or a private subnet that it's creating? Hold on. Go to main.tf. Okay, so private. There are two private subnets.
Yeah.
At least. Are there public subnets? Because there's an internet gateway. So if there's an internet gateway, is there a public one? Okay, so there's public subnets. Okay.
But the only difference between a public and private subnet is an internet gateway, right?
Correct.
There's no...
And then mapping the IP address on launch.
Yeah, but there's not distinct resources the way there is I don't know, Fargate containers and EC2 instances are two different things.
Whereas also, right. It would be different.
So this is a public-private subnet.
Yeah.
They're both just subnets. One just happens to have some configuration that makes it public. Yeah.
Right. The other thing that
my concern with
go ahead. Go ahead.
My concern with LLMs and hallucinations is that it'll call it a public subnet, but not create the internet gateway, or it'll. The fact that it's called public doesn't actually mean it's public, or vice versa with it being private. That's that would be the thing I would be on the lookout for asking LLM to.
Right. I think there's enough of a pattern on it because VPC is one of those patterns, the most common patterns that someone would deploy. So theoretically, whatever the model's learned on, it should be at least sufficient. The thing that alarms me is, what is the database subnet group pointing to? Because we do have an RDS cluster, and it does need a database subnet. So where is that database subnet pointing to? Where is it? I see a security group. Okay. So it's grouping on the subnet ID, the private subnet IDs. Fine. Okay. I would say, like, as a principle, not a refactor for today, but like, as a future refactor, you might want to move this to your own database subnet group or something. Another set of subnets, but we can keep it on the private subnets. I think we have sufficient address space. Okay. All right. I guess this is okay. We should probably tell it to move everything.
Oh, wait.
You don't even have to do the app because the context is in there already. So.
And it's like all of the files because the VPC touched everything.
Right. So create moved blocks. Doesn't this is making it a little bit easier, and that I don't have to write the moved blocks manually. So that's kind of nice. I do like that. So far, our giant 129 resource refactor has taken, what, 4 hours?
Yeah.
Part of it has been more talking than anything. What is it changing? Why is it? Oh, it's doing tags.
Is that all it's doing? Yeah, tags.
I think this is acceptable. I mean, I'm okay with just changing the tags. But, due diligence, they never had the tags correctly anyway. So now I'm just kind of it's a bit sus to me.
Yeah, YOLO.
I didn't see anything being destroyed or
added. At least it's just it happened so quickly. I was like, it had to be a small change. It was done very quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we can delete the move file, and we'll regenerate the graph and look at what's left. All right, let's see what's left in this. Yeah. All right. Did this do a better job grouping it? I guess that's the question. Oh my goodness gracious.
It looks neater.
It does look a little neater. I like at least that it's grouping the boxes. Now, just what is left? That's my confusion of like, what is the stuff that's like kind of hanging around? Buckets.
Buckets. Everybody hates it. CloudFront distribution, Cognito. Sorry, let me zoom in. Cognito. These are part of like the apps logic. VPC security ingress rules, EKS node cluster. Why isn't this in a box?
Well, because they're security groups. The security group wouldn't be a box because they're unique to each model.
Oh, it's just, it's named. Okay, yeah. Security group. Yeah. Database subnet.
Yeah.
Part 53. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
We finished this first part where we modularized. Now we have to do this next part, which is moving them to different state. For better or for worse. Okay. And so we're going to start with the higher level dependency first, right? Now, some people like to do this where they do one grouping, modularize, move to separate state. I personally don't like to do that because I just want to make sure that whatever I modularize, I get the module pattern first. and I'll keep it in one state for a temporary period of time. And then I'll think about moving the pieces to a different state, right? There's a way that, some people will say like, oh, you should just group all these and move them to state as you go along. You can do it if it's a very large one. If it's a very, very, very large Terraform monolith, I will do that as I go. But for the most part, I'll modularize first, make sure everything is stable, and then I'll move the pieces to other state. Because sometimes if I don't know what are the dependencies, and then I start moving things cross state, I'll realize that I missed a resource somewhere, and that's just not, it doesn't make any sense for me to do that. So we're going to start with the higher level dependencies now, and then move them to different state. So this is where we talk about cross state dependencies. We have 15 minutes, 10 minutes. So we'll see how far we get. And I suspect we'll probably have even a third stream on this. I think what we're going to do is create a subdirectory in here. That's probably the best thing we could do with different state. Yeah. Okay. So let's create a subdirectory, and we can call it, you want to call it the reservation system. We'll just move the API gateway, the buckets, and everything else. Yeah, so we'll call it the reservation system. Let's move the API gateway and the lambdas to a different state. I suspect the other ones, they depend on the database. So those would be created in separate states. So let's move the lambdas and stuff and the API gateway. Those are the ones that we've already modularized. We'll move them into a different state. So the trick with this naively is to copy the lambda and copy the API gateway and move it to Terraform and move it, and then see what breaks. That's the naive way of doing it, right? That's the naive way, and it doesn't quite work so simply. If anybody's looking at this, you're like, what? Why would you do this? There's actually a better way to approach this. Move the lambda and the API gateway back to, back to the main. Okay, that's fine. And then what we're going to do is we are going to, how do we do this properly? Yeah, I think this might be a little bit trickier because we have to do an import. All right. Okay, Bob. We're going to start new task. All right. So we're going to move the lambda and the API gateway to the reservation system. Gateway.tf to the reservation system. But before that is, I'm trying to think of a good prompt to make sure we do this correctly. You know what? Okay, scrap that. Generate import blocks under the reservation system. System directory to migrate API gateway.tf and lambda.tf. Yeah, to new state. Okay.
I tagged it to those two files.
You don't have to. I think it will probably figure it out. I mean, it's ideal to tag it, but I think it will actually need the whole context. You need a lot more files to do it because it has to decouple some of the other ones. Yeah, so it might just do that. None of these IDs are correct. That's hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. None of these are correct. Okay. All right. So it did that, but we need the IDs. So what we're going to do is we're going to be very, very clear to Bob how this is going to work. We're going to export the state to a JSON. So Terraform state JSON. You have to do it in CLI. So Terraform state show, and I think it's -JSON or something like that. -JSON. Maybe this will work. Nope. State show, or no, state list or something. That's JSON. Just state list. I want to show all of it. We don't want to just look up everything though.
It's probably something silly like use JSON.
Yeah. Well, a state. You know what we'll do? Tell Bob use Terraform state. Terraform state list. Terraform state list in terminal to look up the ID for each imported block. So basically, what we're going to do is be very clear. Use Terraform list, get to that.
Yeah, your audio is cutting out. I'm getting like every other word or so.
It's around this time every day. I swear. It's like everybody going to lunch using the network or something.
They've all got their phones and 5G.
Am I still? Mode. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's see what it's doing. Oh, sorry. It should be show because this doesn't do anything. Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, it's already doing it. Great. Excellent. I guess you should just approve them because there are how many of these? Like 100? You can click the little down symbol. Oh, just get the IDs. Let me just show the full state for one resource to see the format. I think it doesn't understand the format. Okay, hold on. Okay, now I can see the ID format. All right, it's going to use the script to do.
It's going to write about. I mean,
run.
To be fair, this is what I like.
Oh, so funny.
What is?
I don't know what it's trying to get. I don't think this is working.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna. I was saying this is how I like deal with Bob of like when I needed to do something, like programmatic of like I need to like transform this into that. Instead of asking Bob to do it, I'll be like, write me a script that will do this, and then I can like debug that script and then do it. Because I end up with stuff like this.
You know what you do? Instead of doing this, click reject. Reject. You manually do Terraform show space -JSON. Terraform show space -JSON. Yes, JSON. And then, yeah, so you can dump that out, dump that to a file. State.json and tell it to get IDs from that file and add them to the ID attribute in import.tf. It may not be happy because it's a big file. So
I didn't. That's what we learned last time too, right?
Yeah. So we might have to reserve this for the next one. Refactoring part 3, moving things out of state. I mean, this is, like I said, detailed and inefficient. We plan all these streams and we never actually get that far. So, all right, let's see if it does anything. Will it do it?
It says it's reading it. It limits it to like max 1,000 lines, but it's just one massive line.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a lot. It's. I don't think it was made to read JSON, but we'll see how it goes. It's editing. It's thinking about how it wants to edit it. RIP Richard's tokens.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I'm like, I go the whole month and I use like 5%, and then we do a stream and I use like 30%. Mostly, I don't trust Bob to do anything complicated, so it's all just inline code suggestions.
Nope, did nothing. What is this? Is this, maybe this must be it, right? Hold on. This must be it, right?
Wait, what is that?
Well, no, because you never removed it out of there. You have to go to reservation system. So CD reservation system. And then I think you actually have to create all you have to copy the provider and whatever, everything. So you have to do copy the terraform.tf and stuff. Not the TF state, but the versions.tf.
There it is.
Yep, copy that. Put that there, and then you copy the API gateway and lambda.tf. Don't remove it, just copy it. Yep, okay. And then if you go into reservation system and do a Terraform init. Now, there's another way for if folks are interested in this. It doesn't understand. It has to go up a directory and then modules because it's a different source. So everything that goes module, whatever, change the source in API gateway to .. So yeah, .. modules instead of .. modules. So if anybody is wondering, there is another way to do this where you would ask Terraform to generate the plan, generate it for you. The downside, what I don't like about the generated plan is that it has a ton of hard-coded values. And a ton of hard-coded values, just like if you've already done this refactoring, kind of waste time. So it's easier just to copy over the refactored files. That's why I like to do the refactor into modules first and then copy them to state. Rather than just like import and then generate and then do a refactor. It just doesn't really make any sense. Because you ideally want to do this with less disruption. So if we set this apply, we should not see anything. Oh, copy the variables over too. Like I said, we'll do a more clean refactor after we copy these things over.
Partition.
Yeah. Again with the partition, where's partition? I think it's probably under date. Look for data AWS partition. We should just move it to a data.tf. Yeah, we should just move anything data related to a data.tf. We just want the declaration. Where's the declaration?
Yeah, that's something.
I guess you could tell Bob to do it because saves us from eyeballing it. Just get Bob to do it. I can't find it.
Where is it? Yeah.
Did you delete variables or something, or where?
No.
Oh no, it's just AWS partition. Just search for AWS. Yeah, there you go. It's in data.tf. You have to copy that. There is a data.tf. Oh, that's a great question. Do we plan on refactoring all the way to HTTP stacks? That's a great idea. We should do that, actually. So yes, we should do that. I actually like that idea. I mean, we're making, we're adding more work for ourselves, but it's fine. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that's like cross-state dependencies that it cannot resolve. So it is very displeased by this, right? And how many of these things are there? A lot. And we're also coming up on time.
Yeah, we're over on time.
I think we're going to stop here. And we'll do a recap. And then we'll pick this up on the next refactoring because this has been really fascinating. So recap. We refactored the VPC and the Kubernetes cluster into their own modules. And effectively, what we've learned is a few things. We repeatedly need to fix our terraform.tf file. So we ended up adding a rule to Bob, our coding agent, to help us do that, right? Because we don't want to keep copying and pasting. And then the next thing that we also sort of bumped into was that we got a hallucination where a module attribute, a whole bunch of module attributes were being injected into depends on cross module, not valid. If you want to do something like that, and you have dependencies cross module, you don't want to introduce a circular dependency, use count and toggle it on and off. It's not as clean. It's not as clean in terms of a workflow, but at the very least, you're not going to run into the circular dependency, and it's much clearer. Anything else I forgot on recap?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So that's that. And in terms of the next stream, we're going to do cross-state refactoring. So we refactored everything into modules. Now we're going to do cross-state refactoring. It's not been terribly elegant. We've done the primitives of like importing things, setting up the import blocks, and then moving things to a different directory. But we have to decouple the dependencies, right? So, and that's one thing that we're going to be diving into the next stream. And thank you to our fantastic community member in chat who suggested we refactor this all the way to HTTP stacks because we should just do that. Why not? So we're going to go and actually do cross-state refactoring in the next stream. But this concludes module refactoring, and then we'll go to cross-state refactoring in the next one. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and join us next week for more refactoring fun.